This opening story, set in front of the ocean, where we can see a group of men fishing very early in the morning, is the best way to get the best fish. Our protagonist, Jason, hasn't had much luck, and the only thing he has managed to catch are small fish, and the law says he must return them to the water. On top of that, a massive storm is approaching, so his morning of fishing is cut short, and it will be best for him to return home as soon as possible. Even though today is Sunday, and it's a day to spend with family, Jason always prefers to take advantage of the morning to have some time alone. But with the approaching rain, it will be best for him to get back to his truck and head on home. As soon as he gets into his car and turns on the radio, Jason can hear a voice saying that the storm is much larger than expected. In fact, it isn't just on the coast, it has reached the cities and is moving quickly. Upon arriving at his neighborhood, everything looked perfectly normal. It was an ordinary Christmas morning where everyone was preparing to do their regular Sunday chores, so he picked up the mail and went inside the house. The first letter in his hand was from the tax office and read, "Immediate attention," letting us see that the family is in financial trouble. After greeting his beloved dog, Cass, who is getting older every day, Jason goes upstairs to their bedroom to wake up his wife Riley and tell her that the fishing was sweet, since he brought donuts. After that, the morning is completely normal, except that while the kids try to watch their videos and eat, the internet goes down and they are left completely disconnected. And that isn't the end of the bad news. When Riley checks her phone, she receives the contractor's report with bad news. The foundation of the house is sinking, and the only thing keeping it standing is the chimney. As if that weren't enough, the kids remind their father that he promised to go get the Christmas tree, so that will be $80 he doesn't have to spend. Not on a tree, at least. But here is where things start to get a bit strange. The kids start fighting because they can't open the door, and while they blame each other, Jason discovers that in reality neither of them is at fault, as the door legitimately will not open, even though he already unlocked it. The patio door doesn't open either, and that includes the windows and every possibility of exiting the house. The kids' windows, the garage door, and even Cass's dog door. Everything is completely blocked, so the family is trapped inside the house. A few seconds after hearing the dog bark uncontrollably and the children fight, Jason decides to use all his strength to kick the door, but it throws the kick right back at him, tossing him several meters away. Frustrated by this whole situation, Jason takes a fireplace poker and unleashes all his rage against the window, but despite cracks appearing on the glass, it does not break. Before he tries to shatter the largest stained glass window in the living room, the neighbors across the street signal him with a mirror to tell them that they aren't the only ones. In reality, all the houses in the neighborhood are suffering from the exact same thing. Nobody can leave their home, and they don't understand the reason why. From a distance, the kids can see how the neighbor explains the situation to his wife, and she runs off to get help, which is good news, at least for now. The family is so absorbed in their own world that they have no idea what the neighbors are named, so they start giving them nicknames to identify them. And the most pathetic of all is Boat Guy, who spent a huge amount of money on a boat that has never touched the water because he is afraid of the ocean. Using signs, they try to communicate with the neighbors. Some believe it's aliens, others think it's the government, but they hope it's only happening in this neighborhood. As night falls, the rain worsens, and there is no sign of the neighbor's wife anywhere. So early that morning, Jason grows tired of waiting and uses his tools to drill through the door. The problem is that his drill bits burn out a few seconds after piercing through to the other side, and through the hole he can see how the water forms a sort of barrier that prevents him from drilling any further. But by the next day, 48 hours of being trapped have passed, and the family knows they must come to an agreement and work as a team. They don't know how long this will last, so gathering all the food and rationing it is important. In addition to that, they don't know when utilities might stop working, so they ask everyone to keep all their devices charged and store as much water as possible. That is vital for their survival. And when those tasks are done and morale is high, Jason pulls out his old box of records and some board games to show the kids how they had fun back in his day. Cass begins to scratch at the door because he wants to go outside and do his business, but Jason tries to explain to him as best he can that it isn't possible and that he will have to do his business in the house. Later that day, to try to stay occupied and avoid getting bored, his beloved daughter donates 3 of her stuffed animals so her father can teach them the proper method of cleaning a fish, so that when this whole ordeal is over, he can take them fishing. By day 7, Jason begins to think that this might be happening beyond just them, so he asks the neighbor to start a chain of communication with the one next door, and so on until they know if the entire neighborhood is trapped. The thought of rationing is already present throughout the house. His wife has been saving tomato seeds from lunch, and although she is trying to stay positive 1 week into being trapped in the house, it is already quite a lot. That afternoon, Jason communicates with Max, the neighbor across the street, and Max returns some rather concerning news. It isn't just happening in their neighborhood. 5 blocks before reaching the city, people are also suffering from the exact same thing. They haven't been able to leave their houses, and many of them do not have enough provisions for the coming days. Jason reveals to him that he is an engineer, and Max tells him that he was a dentist for 30 years but is now retired. Then comes the important question. Max opens up and asks if he has any food, since they didn't have a chance to stock up before dinner and currently don't have much to eat. 2 weeks later, Jason's daughter is drawing by the window when she notices a drop of water behaving differently from the rest. So she tries to touch it, and the droplet follows her finger across the entire window. Fortunately, the family has been able to maintain a positive attitude throughout all of this. They have watched old movies on DVD, danced to their father's records, and since they still have electricity, the children's toys are still working. Riley has even built herself a small garden on the kitchen counter, but since provisions are running low, it is time for them to start thinking about a better way to feed themselves. That night, little Ruth is in the attic with her brother when he hears a sort of growl, and his sister tells him that the rainwalker, her friend through the window, has finally returned and only comes to visit them when it rains. A few minutes later, when their mother calls them for dinner, they discover that there is only a little lettuce and a piece of cooked carrot on the plate. And this is the moment Jason feared, when his family would begin to suffer from hunger. This already has them in a slightly bad mood. And when Ruth confesses to them that she managed to see someone outside the window and that this person is her friend, her mother tries to tell her that sometimes she sees things that aren't there too, but it's just the effect of the rain. Riley always manages to get her husband to take things with a better sense of humor, but it's hard when the possibility of their family starving to death looms. However, a few minutes later, when they are in their room, she mentions that she found a small joint in her memory box and asks him if he would like to smoke it and watch a movie. That night, the adult couple relaxes quite a bit after the effect of that familiar plant hits them hard, and they end up stargazing through the window. A few seconds later, they start kissing like two school kids, but a wild wolf catches their attention as it is watching them from outside. When Christmas morning finally arrives, the family takes care of wrapping a few items lying around the house and pretends they are presents. Against all odds, the kids take this with a good attitude, since Jason has managed to raise them in a very mature way, which isn't the case with the neighbor's children, who are surely in a panic right now. Although the happiness fades in an instant when little Ruth can see Max's wife at the window and she suddenly collapses, a sign that they need urgent help. Unable to do anything for her, the family just tries to stay away from the window. And the next day, Jason realizes that there are only 4 pills left for Cass's illness, and without them, the dog they love so much won't last long. As night arrives, the storm worsens significantly, and flashes of lightning begin to make themselves noticed. That is when we realize that Ruth is in the living room, picking up her stuffed animals, when the motion sensor garden light suddenly turns on. The young girl can clearly hear someone behind the glass, but when she pulls the curtain back, she gets the fright of her life, as there is a woman outside, soaking wet and holding a knife in her hand, trying to force her way into the house. When her parents come down to the living room, they find Susan, the woman who was supposed to go get help, and she is screaming over and over that everyone is dead, begging them to let her in before they see her. A few seconds later, something pulls her backward with immense force, like a hand made of water, and the next thing the family can see is a huge white glare that blinds them long enough so that they can no longer see Susan anywhere. The family is extremely shaken, and Jason tries to make his daughter understand that whatever she saw before is the same thing that trapped them here and cannot be good. So he asks her under no circumstances to go near the windows or try to establish communication with that thing until they know more about all of this. That night, the whole family decides to share the bedroom, and the next morning, when the rain is no longer present, they will take care of covering all the windows. And from now on, the only rule is to stay away from the glass when it rains. Later that day, Ruth is trying to practice her aerial gymnastics, but as she moves hanging from the fabric, the vibration causes the chimney to shift a bit. And since the house and its foundations are in poor condition, what happens next comes as no surprise. Several bricks and a large sheet of metal fall down the chimney flue, and the frightened children call for their father, who sticks his head into the opening and can see sunlight breaking through. Since it isn't raining at the moment, it might be safe to try to escape through there. But as they climb higher, the flue grows narrower, and the only one who could fit is Ruth, who is brave enough to try. But due to the cracks and protruding pipes, she can only stick her hand out. And for her, it is a grand victory to feel the breeze for the first time in months. But that brief happiness is ruined a few seconds later when Cass's whines make the family realize that the time has come to say goodbye to their beloved pet. His heart will not hold out much longer, not without his medicine. Riley leads the kids to the living room and turns a movie up at full volume. Meanwhile, Jason takes the dog to the garage and uses his gun to shoot him and end his suffering. Now, there are only two options to dispose of the body. One is to burn it in the fireplace, but the heat could cause far more damage to the structure. The other would be to freeze it, since if the situation escalates to a point where they no longer have food, it might be necessary to use his meat. But Riley doesn't want to hear any of this right now. The children's best friend has just died, and although she knows that could be an option, she asks her husband to handle it and use it only as a last resort. That night, Jason does not return to the bedroom with his wife, and the next morning when she wakes up, she finds him storing the already butchered and cleaned pieces of meat in the freezer. The only thing remaining is Cass's head, and that one he will handle by burning it in the fireplace until only ashes remain. But for that, he waits until nightfall, so the children cannot see anything he is going to do. It is then that the wolf returns once more, and Jason can see it in the yard. Seizing this opportunity, he pushes the head up through the chimney and tries to get the wolf to take it. But a few seconds later, it starts to rain, and the animal gets spooked and flees. As the rain streams down the glass, Jason places his hand against it to tell it not to go, and it is here that he notices the water seems to follow his palm, as if trying to reach him through the glass. A few days later, the family is already trained. When the rain starts to fall, everyone rushes to cover the windows, but little Ruth forgets her plant on the edge of the sill, and when she tries to retrieve it, a massive monster lunges against the glass, and she has only milliseconds to hide. That thing is huge. It has multiple arms and many tentacles protruding from its mouth, or at least that's what can be seen from its silhouette through the sheet. After that traumatic event, time kept passing until the family had been trapped for 3 months, and one night, Ruth begged them for more food. She was starving, but there was nothing the family could do. Riley tried to stay calm, but she was so weak that she ended up collapsing, and the girl checked the refrigerator, realizing that there was no longer anything to eat. Everything had run out. Jason tried to keep his wife feeling positive, but too much time had passed, and it was time to face reality. They were going to starve to death, and there was no way to stop it. In that moment of complete defeat, his son Graham appears with 4 fish fillets, coming from his pet fish that he had cared for years. But in this moment, he demonstrated extreme maturity by using the techniques his father taught him to save his family, at least for one more night. While his wife cooked the fish for their children, Jason realized that the wolf had returned and taken Cass's head. At that moment, an idea struck him, and he went down to the garage to start crafting something. Using a skateboard, a gardening tool, and a spring, he managed to build a wolf trap that would catch the animal, so they could then find a way to pull it into the house. Jason placed a piece of Cass's meat on the skateboard, and after a few minutes of waiting, a fox appeared. However, the bad news was that the animal ate the meat, and the mechanism triggered long after. So it was time to head back to the workshop to make modifications and create a version 2.0 of the device, hoping that this time it might work. And fortunately, it did. The trap caught the fox, and they began pulling with all their strength to haul it up through the roof. But that was where everything went to hell. The rope snapped, and the fox escaped once again. For the third version of the device, Jason decided to start small. If he couldn't catch a fox and haul it through the roof, then he would build a trap for something he actually could bring into the house. Within 30 seconds, Jason caught a squirrel, a rather small prey, but when you are on the verge of starving to death, it is a delicacy fallen from the sky, and they ate it as such, not even waiting for it to come off the pan before dividing it into 4 equal pieces and sucking the bones until nothing was left. For the next part of the plan, Jason made sure to tear up all the wooden floorboards in the living room, breaking through the subfloor to reach the soil below, building his wife a vegetable garden so she could use all the seeds she had been saving up. As the women took charge of the farm, their son began applying his creativity, designing different traps and successfully catching a different animal every time. The family tried skunk, seagulls, and whatever else landed in their yard, and for a good while, they managed to survive. Until one night, the inevitable happened, and the electricity went out, never to return. Here is where the film makes a massive time jump, and we can realize that 5 years have passed since it rained that Sunday, and they lost their freedom. But as their ability to step into the outside world was stripped away, they gained something much greater, the capacity to survive whatever was put in front of them. And in the following scene, we can see that Riley has not only managed to cultivate a successful garden, but produces enough food so that her family doesn't have to worry about hunger. In Graham's case, the gift he was given on that first Christmas served him well, as using that book, the boy learned to play the piano and accompanied his mother while she harvested food. Graham played the piano with absolute skill while a delicious soup simmered on the stove, and a few seconds later, we journey with Ruth, who is in the attic, drawing and observing the animals that have reclaimed control of the world. But even though the house was now self-sustaining and food was no longer a problem, that didn't mean their children's minds were operating at full capacity, as for several days, Graham had been in a foul mood and refused to talk to his family about what was happening to him. And that isn't the only bad news. Riley has discovered that the house is truly sinking, and the chimney is no longer doing its job, so the only thing preventing them from being crushed to death is the water. It is the water barrier surrounding the house. That afternoon, when their father shows them that he repaired the car, Graham lets them see what is going on with him and tells them that there is no purpose in fixing a car he will never be able to drive, and he is tired of living trapped and is starting to think he could survive out there. A few minutes later, the entire family begins arguing as the children are tired of their father's rules and him acting like a general, setting new rules every day, and they don't believe the outside world is that dangerous and think they should find a way to get out. Halfway through the argument, it begins to rain, and everyone moves quickly to cover the windows, but their shouting ends up attracting one of the monsters, and the next thing we can see is water seeping through the keyhole and unlocking the door. In an instant, the door swings open after 6 years of being completely shut, and one of the monsters is standing right in the middle while the family tries to hide. Mother and daughter hide beneath the floorboards, while Graham climbs up to the attic. From his hiding spot, the boy can see the open door and cannot resist his curiosity. But a few seconds later, the massive monster begins advancing through the living room, leaving a trail of slime that freezes all the available water they have. As the monster advances, we can see its tentacles piercing through the floor, as they have razor-sharp tips with serrated blades, perfect for tearing flesh, and Ruth is very close to being impaled by them. Ruth is the only one who has a clear view of the monster, and she can see that it resembles an octopus, but with far more tentacles and a much more threatening demeanor. But that brief glance outside cost her dearly, as a drop of the slime fell into her eye. Suddenly, another roar is heard from outside, and the monster quickly exits, as if its companions were calling it. It is at this moment that Graham makes his attempt to leave the house, but his father stops him. A few seconds later, the door slams shut and returns to its normal state. But now, the family has not only lost their entire harvest, but also their water. After that visit, Ruth becomes obsessed with discovering what those things are, since what dripped onto her face was just salt water in gel form, and perhaps they don't come from space, but from the ocean. After all, several scientific articles say that octopuses never fully adapted to the food chain, and furthermore, they are the species closest to having alien DNA. In her book, she finds an article asserting that if humanity were to disappear from the planet, octopuses would be the species to take control, and perhaps that is exactly what is happening. But her father tries to tell her that they are safe at home, where he can protect them. When he returns to the living room to talk to his wife, the news couldn't be worse. Every single one of her plants is dead, and not only that, the soil is salted. The same goes for the water, and their greatest fear has come true. That thing came to destroy everything they had built. While they argue over the growing possibility that they might die, Ruth finds a ferret in the trap, and the animal looks so docile that she begins to think she could keep it as a pet, but it bites her, and that night she is burning with fever from the infection. So now leaving the house isn't just a challenge, it's a necessity. Thus, Jason heads down to the garage, starts the car, and takes advantage of the few remaining drops of gasoline to ram the door over and over, trying to break out. But despite hitting the wooden door with the full force of a car, it doesn't give a single millimeter, and when Riley pulls him out of the car, nearly passed out, he remembers that the house is sinking, and this could be the solution. His family doesn't understand what he is talking about, but everything from his engineering classes tells him that this is the answer. They have to follow the crack. The crack is the way out. Although Riley is on the verge of losing her sanity, Jason keeps trying and hammers at the floor over and over until he finally manages to open the main drain pipe, telling them that this connects to all the houses in the neighborhood, including Max's, who is a dentist and surely has antibiotics. But the only one who can fit through that space is Riley. The rest are too large, and it is time for her to take the risk to save the family. Equipped with a flashlight and an intercom, Riley navigates the tunnels until she finally reaches Max's house. The strange thing is that the entire house looks as though it has been flooded for years, and crabs are crawling out of the elderly couple's bodies. At that moment, the rain returns, and right as Riley finds the medication, one of the monsters enters the house. So she runs down to the basement as fast as she can and realizes that the place is completely flooded, but she has no choice. She must keep fleeing. Before reaching the tunnel, she stumbles upon Max's body, who couldn't bear the death of his wife and took his own life. Riley runs through the pipe, but the monster is following closely behind her, and in the end, she gets a close-up look at it and shoots it 3 times in the face before her family pulls her up. As soon as she is safe, Jason knocks down the wall so the debris blocks the hole, but the monster is on the other side and is pushing with great force. The only thing they can do is block the door while Riley gives the medicine to her daughter. A few minutes later, Jason speaks with his wife and tells her that that thing won't stop pounding until it gets in and finishes them off. But the good thing is that it doesn't know how many of them there are, and he is willing to sacrifice himself so they can survive. They just need to hide well in the basement and not come out, no matter what they hear. However, in this house, there is nothing left for them. There is no food and no water. And for her children, merely surviving is no longer enough. Those things can open the door, and if there is even the slightest chance that they can escape, they will do so as a family. His obsession with making sure they survive is destroying the family. It is time for them to face this final challenge together. Now, they will have to use their ingenuity not to obtain food, but to build weapons that will allow them to slay those creatures and win back their freedom. What we see next is a series of scenes where the family uses all their resourcefulness to craft different gadgets and traps for when the battle begins. Whatever happens, today will be their last day in this house, and as Jason promised his children 6 years ago, it is time to take them fishing. Later that same day, the storm begins to worsen, and the whirlpool settles right over their house, revealing to them that they are coming for them, and a few seconds later, all the faucets in the house begin spewing large amounts of salt water. Jason, who was standing in front of the fireplace, ends up being forcefully thrown back by a sudden surge of water. In seconds, the water level not only reaches their necks, but forces them to climb up to the 2nd floor, and now their plan to ambush those things has been ruined. But Riley can see it through the window and tells the family that the time has come to fight. Riley is the first to be attacked, but she throws a Molotov cocktail directly into the monster's face, managing to set it ablaze so her husband can see it underwater long enough to shoot it with a harpoon. But with the size of that thing, a single harpoon isn't enough, and Graham has to risk his life to retrieve the other one so they have another chance against that creature. The boy retrieves the harpoon, and when his parents are on the 2nd floor, they break through the floorboards so he can see the light and head toward it, managing to pull him out of the water before the monster grabs him. The entire family holds together in the attic, and the water eventually submerges them completely, so now they only have a few seconds before drowning, and this is their final chance. At that precise instant, the monster appears and reveals its full form, allowing Jason to shoot it right in the face and trigger the mechanism they built using the car, which turns on, dragging the monster directly into the garage. There, they had made sure to damage the structure enough so that it would collapse right on top of the monster, but it gets stuck on the stairs and ends up completely bound, unable to move. However, the door still doesn't open, and Jason grabs a knife to threaten the monster and force it to open the door. Ruth tells him that this is the rainwalker she saw and that she isn't evil, and although Jason has the opportunity to stab it to death, he decides to trust his daughter and sets it free. At that extremely tense moment, the monster rises and, using one of its tentacles, opens the door, allowing the family to step outside. But outside, there are many more monsters that surround them and are about to devour them. But the Rainwalker emerges from the house and orders her kind to step back. A few seconds later, the house's foundation can no longer hold, and it sinks into a massive sinkhole that swallows not only the house, but the entire yard before them. Ruth begins running until she reaches higher ground and can see what remains of the world, which has transformed into a vast ocean. The film ends with scenes of the new world, while a voiceover tells us that the day it stopped raining was a summer Tuesday, and the trigger for it was a simple act of compassion from humans toward them, and from them toward us. Jason ends up stealing the annoying neighbor's boat, and together with his family, they set sail toward the horizon. Although they never encountered the Rainwalker again, they know she is protecting them, as this world now belongs to them, or perhaps it always belonged to them, and they only came to the surface to reclaim it. In a final scene, the tally of all the days they spent trapped is erased, and a new one begins, but now searching for survivors in this new underwater world.